Welcome to the Hope for the Animals podcast, a project of compassionate living. I'm your host, Hope Bohannic, and it is June, so that is Pride Month. Happy Pride, everyone. I try every year to do a Pride-themed episode. It doesn't always happen. I love when the stars align and it actually happens. So today's guest is Kathleen Gage of Vegan Visibility. And in our conversation, we talked about some things that are paralleled about being gay and being vegan. And I have one to add, one that's more from an allyship perspective or an ally view. And that is that being vegan and being supportive of gay and lesbian and gender fluid and trans people to be able to be who they are, express how they want to express. These two things have something fundamental in common, and that is compassion, kindness, being a decent human being. I think that both these things, being vegan and being an ally to the LGBTQIA plus community, is just being a decent human being, putting the politics aside and your own cultural biases against either lifestyle. Putting that aside, both things at their heart are about kindness, compassion, and just being respectful of others' lives, letting others live as they were meant to live. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Kathleen on this Pride Month. Here we go. All right, today on the podcast, we have Kathleen Gage. Kathleen is the founder of Vegan Visibility, an organization that supports vegan businesses. And she is a longtime business consultant, keynote speaker, marketing strategist, and podcast host. With certifications in Neuro-Linguistics programming and plant-based nutrition from Cornell University, Kathleen has spent decades helping entrepreneurs and changemakers grow their visibility and impact. She hosts two podcasts, Vegan Visibility and Plant-Based Eating for Health, and she's the creator of the Vegan Visibility Virtual Summit, supporting vegan and plant-based entrepreneurs worldwide. She resides with her wife in Pleasant Hill, Oregon. Welcome to the podcast, Kathleen.
Hope, it is great to be here.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I love your voice. You have such a pleasant voice.
Thank you.
You could do meditation audios.
That's what my husband says. He says, I just want to record your voice. And
it's a great voice. So with that being said, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, long before podcasts existed, I wanted to be on the radio. I thought that would be fun to be like a radio host. And so here we are. We have podcasts now. We can all be radio hosts.
Absolutely. Actually, I was in radio in the mid 80s in
Really?
Yeah, KMGG radio. I had a little community affairs show. It was like a 1-minute segment, and I also voiced commercials. So I started in broadcast media, 40 years ago.
How cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, we would love to get to know you better. So why don't you tell us your vegan origin story? Why and when did you go vegan?
Okay, well, when I first started going plant-based, I did not call myself a vegan. It was in September of 2018. And initially, I was doing it because I had severe inflammation in my wrist. And as a writer, it was hindering my ability to do my job. And so I did my research and came across the usual suspects, Dr. Joel Furman and T. Colin Campbell, who were all about health. And from what I read, if I got rid of any animal products, I would get rid of the inflammation. Now, what's interesting is at that time, I was doing a lot of animal rescue. Karen and I, we had rescued a lot of animals that this is their forever home. Once they get rescued by us, they don't go anywhere else. And
Karen's your wife?
Karen is my wife, of nearly 37 years.
Wow.
And, we've been together 37, in November, it'll be 37 years. So what I decided to do was give it 7 days to see if anything changed by giving up animal products. And at that time, I have to tell you, I was completely ignorant to what happened to animals in the farming industry. And so I gave it a week. And in a week, it was really in a matter of a couple of days, the inflammation disappeared. In a week, I started dropping some weight. I had more energy. I thought, well, I'll give it another week. And same thing happened. I continued to feel better and better.
Mm.
And the further I went into my plant-based journey, the more research I did. I watched a lot of documentaries, and it was about 6 months into not consuming any animal products. I actually was at the grocery store walking by the meat department, and I had a visceral response to what I saw. I call it a spiritual awakening, where I realized that I had been very, very blind to the pain and suffering that animals go through. And it was in that moment that I identified as a vegan. And that was kind of the beginning of what my life is today. And now everything is immersed into being a vegan and doing what I can to raise awareness around compassion to animals.
Mm. Wow, I love that. You call it a spiritual awakening. It's really true when we kind of put those pieces together and realize what we all are doing as a society to these poor animals. It's like a spiritual moment of clarity, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I kind of equate it to when I got sober in 1983. That was a very spiritual awakening for me because I was living a very dark and blind life when I was drinking. And I'm one of those drinkers that I can't just have one drink. I truly am an alcoholic. And I've had people say, "Oh, you should not label yourself an alcoholic." It's like, well, no, this person has to, because for me, it just caused a lot of havoc in my life and the lives of people that I surrounded myself with. And that was the first big spiritual awakening I had as an adult. Then, when I identified as a vegan, so much changed in my life.
Well, the reason I invited you on is that it is June and June is Pride Month. And so I wanted to hear about your experience being vegan and being gay, and wondered if you saw any parallels there. I mean, I have gay friends that tell me that there are through lines, there are parallels in the gay community and the vegan community, and these two kind of worlds. And I'd love it if you would kind of tell us about how you feel about that. And maybe even your origin story of coming out, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. And, it's interesting because one of the frustrations I have is the lack of awareness, I think, within not just the gay and lesbian community, but in virtually every community about the pain and suffering animals go through. And the fact that there's so much information out there today that we don't need to consume any animal products. And so I I would say that sometimes it can be very difficult to be at a gathering and see people consuming foods that I no longer would even think of consuming. And I can't even call them foods. I just call it torture. And
Mm.
so I think if I was to make any kind of a comparison, it's like once you realize and identify and go in the different levels, because one thing about coming out, for example, right now I'm sharing my story of coming out. That's another level of coming out. And it's the same with being vegan, is that when you go to a gathering and somebody offers you something, you say, no, thank you. I don't consume that. And then they ask you why, and you share it. Well, for some people, it's like, oh, tell me more. That's interesting. And for other people, it's like, well, I could never do that. And it's like, well, nobody's asking you not to do it. It's like in that moment, I haven't said anything other than the fact that I don't consume that. And it's the same thing with being gay. It's like I've had people, and it always shocks me when somebody says, "Well, you don't look gay," and it's like, "Well, what does gay look like?" It's like, "Well, you don't look vegan." It's like, "Well, what does vegan look like?"
Right.
And so it's like I would say that once you realize it, but then it goes in degrees. It's like for me, when I first identified as vegan, it was around what I ate. And then it was my clothes, and then it was my personal care products, then it was my furniture, it goes in degrees of like, okay, it's not just you turn on a switch and all of a sudden everything in your life is about being vegan. It's like you have levels of awareness. It's the same thing as being in a relationship with a woman, that sometimes I forget that that's not the norm for some people. It's just like Karen and I are in a relationship. We own a home together. She works as a park ranger for Lane County. We work in our yard. We feed our animals. We just live, we pay our bills. We just live our life. And yet it's interesting because when it became legal for us to get married, we were one of the first couples that got married in Lane County. And for some reason, our picture was in the newspaper. Well, we
Ah,
had neighbors who came over and brought us flowers, and they said, "We
aw.
saw your picture and congratulations." And these are like old time Lane County folk. And
Wow.
we went down to the Sunrise Cafe, and people were like, "Oh, congratulations. We saw that you got married." And it was like, right on. So I think that for me, and this is my experience, is the more that I accept within myself who I am, the more other people accept it. And I think that's true for just about anything. The way we present our position on anything really determines if somebody's going to be open to hearing more about it or if they're going to be resistant.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I do want to clarify that of course they're not the same, being vegan and being gay, in that one is a choice and one is not. And
Correct.
that I want to be clear about that, of course. And but coming out is a choice. So, and being open about it. So that's exactly what you were saying. It's kind of having an identity that is not the norm or the mainstream. So, kind of learning to navigate that identity can be part of the challenge, right?
Well, and it's interesting what you said about the coming out as the choice, and that is correct because when I was a kid, I already knew as a kid that I was different. When I was in sixth grade, I had a crush on my sixth grade teacher, and it was like something I couldn't quite figure it out.
Hmm.
And as I grew older, and I realized that I got married. I was married a few times to men, and people have often been shocked at that, saying, well, how could you marry a man if you're gay? Well, you don't necessarily embrace the fact that you're gay when you're growing up. It was a matter of me accepting within myself that this was who I was. And it's so interesting because for my parents, I actually drank a lot as a result of realizing that I wasn't the girl that they had
Mm,
raised to get married and have kids and on and on.
yeah.
And my mother, Karen and I actually met in AA. And my
Oh.
mother came to a meeting. I lived in Guerneville at the time. My mother was at the meeting, and during the break, she comes up to me and she said, "Is everybody here gay?" And I said, "Well, most of them." I said, "This is a gay and lesbian meeting." And she goes, "What about that nice young girl over there?" Now, Karen was 25 when we met, so we're going back a few years. And she goes, "What about that nice young girl over there that I was talking to?" And I
Oh,
said, "Well,
wow.
actually, that's the woman that I've been dating." She goes, "She is so nice." And it was so amazing
Aw.
because it was kind of like divine intervention that my parents met Karen in an environment that was an environment where we were doing something to improve our lives. And my
Mm,
mother had had a nice conversation with her and liked her as a person. And then when they found out we were dating, everything changed. It was like they realized that it wasn't so odd to have somebody that you loved of the same sex. So
mm,
um, the coming out, it is definitely a choice because in virtually any environment, if a conversation, somebody's talking about their spouse and maybe a woman saying, my husband this, my husband that, and I say, well, my wife, if I am just like letting it be part of the conversation, it just is part of the conversation. It's not like, well, I have a wife and you better accept that because nobody has to accept anything. I have to be willing to present myself in a way that feels comfortable to me.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so Karen works for the Park Service. I'm curious about that. And I know that you have rescued a lot of animals. So do you want to talk about any of that? I'd love to hear about your kind of connections to the Park Service part. I'm not sure what she does there.
She's a
And the
park
rest
ranger.
a
She is a
park.
park ranger.
Oh,
And,
that's so
you know,
cool.
being a park ranger is basically you do a lot. It's like she does everything from driving large equipment, like large tractors and mowers and all that. They do plumbing. They do, it's not just
Wow.
sitting at the entrance of a park and collecting money.
Right.
That would be compliance, where you go and make sure people have bought park passes and all that. But they make sure they've learned how to do CPR. They actually had to go through, in order to be a park ranger, you have to go through a training where you get sprayed with pepper spray, and
Wow.
you have to know what it's like to have that done to you. She was the second female park ranger in Lane County. And
Wow.
yeah, it's only been in the last few years that women got hired into park ranger positions. Now,
Mhm.
I don't know if that was because no women were applying, or I don't know what the whole reason for that is. And she loves her job. She loves the team she works with, and they're all great. I've met practically everybody on her team. And what's really nice is it's a real diverse group of people. It's like you have every walk of life in the park ranger system.
Mm.
But as far as the animal rescue that we do, that kind of happened by accident. We didn't set out to rescue animals. It's just that where we live, we're in Pleasant Hill, and we're in an area where people tend to just dump animals, which is
Mm.
really unfortunate. It's
Yeah.
like they'll throw cats away, dogs away, chickens, whatever it may
Oh,
be, thinking that they can fend for themselves, and that's
right,
the number
right.
one mistake that people make. But we've ended up where animals have showed up on our property, and we give them a nice home and we protect them. Like we have right now, we have two chickens and a rooster that we make sure that at night they're in their sleeping area, so that no hawks or owls or anything can come and attack them. At this point in time, we have the chickens and the rooster. We have two horses. We had to lay to rest a horse about 3 months ago who was 30 years old and had Cushing's disease. And we took that one on as a rescue, came out of a pretty tough situation.
Mm.
And we had Mariah for, I think, about 15 years by the time we had to lay her to rest. And that was a really hard decision, because it's like when you love your animal so much and they're a part of your family, and you have to let them go, and that's the most humane thing to do. That's a tough thing to go through. And
Yeah.
what was really amazing is we actually got cards from people saying, we're so sorry for your loss. And so
Oh.
people realize that these are a part of our family. And we have two dogs right now, both rescues. One came out of a methamphetamine situation, and she's a
Oh.
little neurotic dog. She's 9 pounds of neurosis. And then we
Oh.
have a pit bull shepherd mix, who right now he's going through some health issues that we're giving him the best care we can. He's got degenerative arthritis, and we just want him to be out of pain. That's the main thing for me, is I don't want our family members to be in pain.
Yeah. So sweet. Yeah, I love that that you've got a little micro sanctuary going on there.
We do. And Karen used to do a lot of horse rescue. There's been some pretty horrendous situations here in Lane County and in Oregon, and she would go on rescues. And she's an animal whisperer. I'm just so
Mm.
impressed with her ability around animals.
Well, Kathleen, I want to switch gears a little bit and ask about the broader gay and lesbian and trans community as well. These last few years, there's been kind of renewed persecution. I mean, not that it ever ended, but there's been kind of a resurgence of harassment, abuse, threats. That's all kind of on the rise for this community. What do you think is happening? Do you think that it's a backslide, a backlash? How would you talk about the current state of the struggles of the gay community?
Well, I think it's difficult to talk about the current state without talking about the history of the gay community. And I think one of the things that would benefit people within the gay community and family members of people who have family members who are from the LGBTQ plus community is to learn the history, learn what Stonewall was actually about. Where a lot of people, they hear the word Stonewall, they don't know the history of Stonewall. Find out when the first AIDS foundations were established. And actually in I think it was 1981 or 82, myself and somebody I was doing business with at the time, we did the first fundraisers for the AIDS Foundation in San Francisco and Sacramento. And so we're going back many, many years. And this is when nurses and doctors would come in hazmat suits going in when patients were diagnosed with AIDS. And just the horrendous things that we saw going on. In Karen's family, she has an aunt who is probably in her late 70s, early 80s, who, when she first came out, if a woman was wearing anything that was male attire, they could get arrested. And there has been talk that that's going to be implemented again, that if
Oh,
women wear anything to do with male attire and men wear anything to do with female attire, that they can be arrested.
mm,
And so I think we went through a period where things kind of just became part of the norm, and people didn't make that, at least we didn't hear about it. I know in the Bible Belt and all that, that would be a whole different conversation. But I think our current administration, it's deflection. It's a way to get people to fear something they don't understand. And so with our current administration, the whole issue about trans rights and all that, the reality is that a lot of people, they have trans people in their life and they don't even know it.
mm,
And, so this whole thing of that men in women's sports or men going into women's bathrooms, it's like those are issues that are so minimal that it just perplexes me that people grab onto something like that and they get sidetracked from what the real issues in life are, which is good health care and making sure that unhoused people have good housing, food, and the SNAP benefits and all that. And yeah, I tend to be very liberal in my politics, but I think that really it's about us taking care of each other. And I don't know. I don't understand why there's been such a big resurgence of people literally hating other people that they don't even know anything about.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that certainly has to do with the freedoms and norms that were starting to be established. I mean, that's, I think that we had come so far. And so this threatens the white male dominant power.
Right, right,
Straight, we'll add straight in there.
right.
And that, and they're feeling threatened. So there's this whole backlash. And I think social media, unfortunately, feeds into it as well. When there is someone that is spewing hate and saying horrible things, that gets a lot of attention now, more so than it ever would have in the past. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons, of course, and yeah, the current administration. I mean, just to hear this man, I can't even. Oh,
I know, I know. And
ah,
it's like I take a media or a news break because it's like I'll go work in my garden because I just get so upset and so
oh yeah,
angry.
it's
And I hear
awful.
his voice and it's like, oh
Ooh, I
gosh,
know it's
it's like
cringe,
nails on
just
a chalkboard.
cringe. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's so interesting, Hope, because a lot of people, we went through a period where they said, oh, you want special rights, and it's like, no, we just want the same rights that you have. And I know before Karen and I could get legally married, we had to jump through so many hoops to make sure that our assets were protected because we built a very comfortable life for ourselves. And
Mm,
it didn't happen by chance. We worked very hard for it. And we had to make sure that, our home was in both our names, our cars were in both our names, our checking and savings accounts were in both our names, and our will, that it was ironclad, and that because we saw far too many people that didn't do those types of things. And if one of the partners had passed on, it was horrendous to see what some
mm,
families did. Some were very supportive and said, no, you built this life together, this is yours, we'll make sure that you're protected. Other families, they came in like hawks, just taking everything, and it was like, oh my gosh,
oh wow.
it's terrible. I mean,
Oh,
some of the and that's why I really think that for people within the gay and lesbian community and the trans community, that you educate yourself on the history, find out what you need to do to protect yourself financially, because once you pass away, if you've built a life with somebody and you don't have that ironclad, everything you work towards can be taken away. And you don't want that to happen.
I had never even thought of that. I mean, and I think I think as an ally deeply about these things, but that the family could like not be supportive
Right.
of the relationship and would try to get those assets instead of them going to your partner. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awful.
Well, and another thing that people, and it's not to do with the gay and lesbian community, but just people in general who have animals. Have you made provisions for your animal to be taken care of when you pass on? In
Yeah.
our will, we have a very substantial amount of money that will go for our animal care to make sure that those animals, they're continued to be cared for in the manner in which they've become accustomed. And they're very spoiled. I got to tell you, our animals are spoiled, but it's like they are a part of our family, and we want to make sure that they're not sent to some shelter that is a shelter that will not protect them. We want to make sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. No, that's really good to think about. And I know we don't want to think about these things. End of life stuff is
Oh, I'll tell you,
tough to think about, but it's really
the older
important.
I get, the more I think of it. I have to tell you, Hope, I've been thinking, okay, I'm 72, and I look at the averages of numbers. And now I don't consider myself average, but there are averages. And I think, oh my gosh, I have between 6 and 10 years, if the numbers are running right, 6 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, what am I going to do with that 6 to 10 years? And for me, it's making sure I enjoy every day as much as possible and contribute as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear more about your business, Vegan Visibility. Tell us all about what you do.
Well, with vegan visibility, it initially started, and I'm almost embarrassed to say the name of my corporation, but it's Turning Point Inc., if you can believe that. And
Why is that? I
Turning
don't.
Point America. What's her name?
Oh,
Kirk.
Charlie
Yeah.
Kirk.
Yeah. Okay. His organization is Turning
Oh,
Point
that's
America.
right.
I started
Okay.
Turning Point Inc. in 1994.
Oh,
So
no.
it's been around for a long
Oh,
time. It is a
oh
corporation.
well.
I'm an S corp. Yeah, it's an oh well. But over the process of years that I've had my business, I've had a few different names. One was Street Smarts Marketing, another was Power Up for Profits. And that's when I was real focused on teaching businesses how to make money. And when I became vegan, I was out on a morning walk and I was thinking, what's the greatest challenge that vegan businesses have? And the greatest challenge is visibility. And so it's like, oh, vegan visibility. So it was about 8 years ago that I changed the name. But today, my business basically has gone through many rebirths, if you will. At one point, I was a keynote speaker and I traveled a lot. I contracted with a seminar company and I would go all over the United States doing presentations. And I'm an author. I've written several books. And I used to do Amazon campaigns, teaching authors how to become bestsellers on Amazon. So this was all it was pre-vegan visibility in 2018. It was what the premise of my business was, a business consultant and a keynote speaker. Then when it became vegan visibility, over the process of the last 8 years, I have made a conscious choice that I only want to work with companies that are committed to the vegan mission. My whole deal is working with organizations that are part of the vegan movement. And I work with Cheryl Moss, and she is a nonprofit, and we're growing on building her nonprofit. And that's my main focus right now is working with her.
So, Kathleen, how do you celebrate Pride?
Oh, I used to celebrate by going to Pride Day, and I was involved in the planning committee. And the woman that I mentioned earlier that we used to do events together, we did the first AIDS fundraisers. She used to produce the San Francisco Pride Day,
Oh,
and she
wow.
may
That's
still
a
do
big
it.
one.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. She used to produce shows with Annie Lennox, Grace
Wow.
Jones. I mean, Sylvester. She did one of the last shows with Sylvester before he passed on. But when she was doing Pride Day, I always got really good position as a dyke on bike. I used to ride a motorcycle,
Ah,
so it
the
was a
dykes
dykes
on
on bike.
bikes.
I was
Yeah.
always within the first 10, and it's like woohoo! And that's
Wow.
back when I was single, so it was okay.
Oh, that's
But
fun.
I used to go to a lot of the celebrations, and now it's so for me. What I am finding that the more that I get into the earth and the more I get into just a simple life, because even though we live a very comfortable life, it's a very simple life. I mean, my needs nowadays are very, very simple. And I just, I don't like being around a lot of people. I went to Pride Day a couple of years ago, and it felt like it lost some of what it used to mean. It just, I have to say that there were things that I saw that were kind of shocking to me. I've been around the community for many, many, many years. I've been involved in fundraising. I've been involved in political movements. And it just felt like the message is getting lost.
Mm,
And maybe it's just my perspective in life, but the way that I celebrate Pride today is I'm the best spouse that I can be. I'm the best parent to our fur babies that I can be.
mm.
I am an upstanding citizen. I mean, that to me is pride. It's like I respect people. Like, okay, for example, when I go to the grocery store, I take pride in making sure that the encounter I have with the clerk who is checking out all my food, that it's going to be the best encounter that they had that day. I have a conversation with them, I
Aw,
connect with them, I thank
yeah.
them. As I'm leaving, I thank them. And that to me is pride. It's living a life that I can feel good about. And
Yeah.
so it's not for me at this point in life. And I can't say that I didn't always do this. I mean, I used to wave the flag, but it's not about going out and waving a flag. It's about doing the things that make me a contributing member of society. That to me is pride.
Yeah. Yeah, so it goes beyond just the parade, beyond the
Right,
day.
right, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
it's treating people with respect. I mean, I think that's a lost art for many people, and social media does have a lot to do with it. It's like we have keyboard warriors that will say things on social media that would they say it to somebody's face? Maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. But I think for me, what is the most important thing that I can do is just be respectful of other human beings and treating people regardless of their position and their station in life with respect.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's true. And if a community wants respect, like the vegan community, like the gay community, well, then we need to show respect. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's this stereotype that vegans are whatever, angry or mean or judgmental, all of that. And that's not what I have observed at all. I think the vegans that I know, and I know a lot of them, are some of the most respectful and loving and community oriented people that there are,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good way to be.
Well, and I think anybody that would go to one of your Vegan Fest events would see how nice the people are. I mean, it's just you've got sanctuaries there, you've got different types of businesses there, you've got food trucks there, and it's just. I have to say, I am very impressed with what you have created and just the community that has come together since you started doing Vegan Fest in Lane County. It's been great.
Thank you. Yeah, Eugene Vegan Fest. We just had our second year, and you were there supporting Blue Barn. I know that you
Yes, I
just
was.
became a board member of Blue Barn Farmed Animal Sanctuary, which is a sanctuary here in the area. Do you want to talk about Blue Barn sanctuaries? Anything
I
about
would
that?
love to. I would
Yeah.
love to. Blue Barn is a micro sanctuary, and there are, I believe, 42 residents at Blue Barn. We have pigs. We have three pigs. We have four goats, a lot of bunnies, a goose, roosters, and chickens. So you name it, it's probably there on the
Yeah.
farm. And it's a small sanctuary, and that's really the container that we keep it in. Melissa is not trying to grow it because it fits within the amount of property that she is able to create a home for these residents.
And
But
she does some great educational outreach, like the bunny story
bunny
time for
books and
kids.
bunnies,
She has a
yeah,
bunch
or
of rabbits and
she
brings kids.
does. Yeah, the kids get to read to the bunnies, and which
Yeah.
helps the kids to see that these are loving little creatures. I believe this year alone, already 500 children have gone through that program.
Wow.
And we recently had our annual garage sale, which was great because I was kind of the ambassador to educate people on what a sanctuary does and does not do. And a lot of people didn't know. They thought it was a petting zoo, or they thought it was just, oh, she has a lot of animals. And when I would explain what a sanctuary was, people donated more money, which was great.
Oh.
Because a lot of people don't realize how much work it takes to run a sanctuary, and that it's a
Oh yeah.
24/7 job.
Oh yeah.
It's not something that you go, okay, today I'm not going to do this. It's like these residents depend on you.
Yeah, I really love Melissa and the work she's doing there. And yeah, and I see the work that sanctuary founders do. Wow. I mean, running the Vegan Fest, the Eugene Vegan Fest, everybody's like, wow, it's so much work. And it is. But it's kind of seasonal. Like
Right.
it's a big for a couple months, huge, and then then there's a downtime. They never get downtime. They always have to be on for the animals. So I honor and appreciate and respect sanctuary
It,
workers. Yeah.
as do I, because I know that with Karen and I, the responsibility we've taken on with our family members, especially the horses, we can't just pick up for the weekend and go off. And people go, "How come you don't travel more?" And it's like, because we have a commitment to our animals, and
Yeah.
we don't want just anybody coming in and taking care of our animals, because a lot of people don't know the special needs that they have. And it's interesting because our horses and our dogs have special needs. One of our the little one, she has a severe heart murmur, and she's had
Mm.
it since the day we got her. And they're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" It's like, "What do you mean, what do I want to do? I want to give her a good life."
Yeah.
And so we take care of them the best that we can, and to just let somebody else take care of them doesn't fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'd just be thinking about, are they okay the whole time
Right,
you're
right.
trying? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Kathleen, I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's fun because we are now neighbors, even though we lived in the same area in Sonoma County area, kind of
Yes,
Northern California for a while, and now we've both moved here to Eugene. So we're our lives have been kind of paralleled and our neighbors. So I'm glad that we're getting to get to know each other more now
absolutely.
here. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love the work that you're doing. I mean, the fact that we now have such a stellar vegan event that's, people are coming to anticipate it every year now. It's great. And
Oh, thanks.
that's what will help other people to realize that there are so many benefits to choosing to be sort of vegan, for those who want to be sort of vegan, and then for those who want to be 100% vegan. And truth be told, it's like you have people that say, "Well, what about the insects, and what about this, and with the vegetables you eat and the fruits you eat?" And it's like, those are arguments that you can never win. So it's no point in even getting in that argument. It's just like living as clear minded and as consciously as possible. I think that's the truth of what being vegan means.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we do know that the animals suffer in the meat, dairy, and egg industry. So
Oh,
that
yes.
is clear.
Yes.
Even though there's
Yes.
a lot of gray areas, that is clear. So we can at least avoid those and be vegan. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Kathleen, let's wrap up. I want to ask you our last question. What gives you hope for the future?
Ooh, what gives me hope for the future? Truly, wow, that's a great question, because sometimes I have to wonder, is there hope for the future? But then I look at what people are doing to, like yourself, with the Vegan Fest and all the stuff you do within the vegan community. The animals give me hope when I see that, they're living a life that they otherwise would not have had the opportunity to live. And I really think that where hope resides is that we be willing to be a voice for the voiceless, and not just the animals, the fur babies, not just those people, but the unhoused people, the people who are struggling to pay their bills, the people that can't get good health care and they don't know what they're going to do if they have an emergency. But I think kindness is what gives me hope.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing those issues in. It's really true that it's so all connected,
Hmm.
and that is a big message that I like to have is that this is a social justice issue. Vegan is just part of a larger piece of ending systematic oppression, including against the gay and lesbian and trans community.
Absolutely.
And so, bringing it back to Pride, happy Pride to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for listening to the Hope for the Animals podcast, a project of compassionate living. So I'll have the links to Kathleen's business, Vegan Visibility, in the show notes and how you can get in touch with her. I'll also put links to some of my other Pride related podcast episodes there. I hope you have a wonderful Pride Month, however you celebrate. And please give this podcast a 5-star rating if you're listening on an app and share with others in your life that celebrate Pride and live vegan.